We're the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust, and we provide resources for teachers to teach about the Holocaust in North Carolina. The Gazella-Abramson Holocaust Education Act was passed in 2021 by the North Carolina legislators for teachers in North Carolina in grades 6 through 12, social studies and English to teach. And so we actually worked with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction to create curriculum resources for teachers in our state to do that. Our hope and dream is that you might feel comfortable enough to lead presentations like this, maybe even in your own district, and train other teachers. Today we have a training for the Gazella-Abramson Holocaust Education Act, where we are training teachers to teach some of those foundational lessons about the Holocaust, but we're also equipping them to be able to do training themselves, if they so desire, to actually do these lessons with other teachers if that's something they want to do. They can do it in their own classrooms, or they can actually take it out and teach other teachers. So it's kind of a train the trainer kind of thing.
A lot of students will come with prior knowledge saying, oh, well, it would have been inevitable. It was just going to happen anyway because Hitler took over. And, we don't want students to leave with that kind of understanding that, no, there are very, very definite reasons that it happened. And the big one is because people were not willing to speak out and speak up and push back. Whenever I taught my elective class, my students would always want to throw out these just general statements like, well, if it would have been me, I'd have fought back. I'd taken my guns and da-da-da. Or just any kind of oversimplification that kids bring to the table when we talk about the Holocaust. They don't understand that, so we have to dispel those myths and make sure that we don't just provide any kind of simple answers. Another good question they always ask is, why didn't they just leave? We have a whole lesson on that where you can delve deep into why it was difficult to leave. It was not just as simple as packing your bags and going somewhere else.
I think back to the Nuremberg trials afterwards, the reason that most of the high officers gave was they were just following orders. That's not a justifiable reason, but that's the reason that they gave.
Sometimes we want to tell those feel-good stories, the people who made it, but we also need to make sure that they understood that that's the exception, not the rule.
Contextualize the history, and I tried to think about it for, go through and pick the 6 words that I thought my 6th graders would be able to walk away with the most, and it was precedents, circumstances, consequences, resistance, control, and availability.
The challenges of comprehension, because it was just so many people. It's so easy for people, I think, to discount the horrors of the Holocaust because it's hard to comprehend. That it's about individual people, that it's those stories. That's what our first speaker was so enthralling.
The consequence of dehumanization, and that's the root of everything, is that if you can dehumanize, you can do anything you want to somebody because you don't have to show your human empathy to another person.
The cards, I actually ordered the one that have the victim stories, and we go through and analyze them, why were they sent to the camp, that type of stuff, and they're like, it wasn't just Jews. Yes, there was political refugees, homosexuals, anybody that was different or seen as a threat essentially was in danger.
This is actually an American liberator holding these in his hands. So these are the rings that they didn't have time to melt down into gold bars. So this is a small fraction of one drawer of wedding rings that they didn't have time to morph into something else. This was found at Liberation. And this particular photo here is kind of the same type of thing. This is not piles of bodies. This is clothing. And then the Nazis actually gathered all of the clothing to send back to Germany and to have it searched for valuables as well, where they might have found some wedding rings. These kinds of pictures I found had much more of an impact on my students.
I picked this particular picture because this is an actual image out of a textbook or scientific book to teach the race theory that the Germans were using to stereotype the Jews, and it also ties into eugenics that was used in the United States.
Here's the picture that I picked. I think that it is important because it shows children, Jewish children, having their real lives, playing outside, and sometimes Holocaust education can get sensationalized and you lose those personal stories, and so I think it's important to put personalities with those statistics that we sometimes see.
This is the picture that I picked. It stood out to me on the table because it says Nazi plans to kill all Jews, and it's in an American newspaper in 1942.
This is the picture I selected. I think it shows life in the concentration camp, that it wasn't just extermination, that there was also forced labor as well. And it also shows the young age that kids were taken to the camps and they were forced to work.
We're fortunate to have a collection of diaries of young people who lived through the Holocaust, who survived in different ways. Some were hidden, some were in concentration camps, some were in ghettos, but we have a compilation of their stories. We're lucky to have those stories so that our students can actually read those primary sources and know what happened to real people who lived in those times, to help them personalize those stories. So we're really, really lucky to have access to that.
We've had a great response. This is actually the 6th one of these workshops that we've done, and we have trained teachers in every educational region in our state. Today we have a great group of educators from the mountains of North Carolina here at Western Carolina University, and they are just wonderful to work with, and they're having a great time with the discussions that we're having. The work of the council is ongoing. Just because the Holocaust happened 80 years ago does not mean that it's not something we need to address today. As a matter of fact, in the world we live in, it's even more relevant than ever that we learn how to recognize patterns of the past so that we can prevent any other future instances of genocide in the future.
How can people get more information?
We have 2 websites, one with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and we also have a teacher website. All you have to do is Google the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust. They'll both come up. And we have trainings all across the state every year. We have resources available on our website, and we even do webinars where we Zoom survivors into classrooms.